All right, from the fight capital of the world inside the beautiful Mandalay Bay Race and Sportsbook, it's the MMA Junkie Radio Show. I'm George, and that's Goes. And we got a one championship invasion, Goes.
Awesome,
really,
right?
really stoked, yeah. We have athletes, we have VPs. It's going to be a great time here this first hour of the show. Starting things off, batting leadoff. You ever play baseball, Eddie Alvarez?
I went on a select team.
Yeah, were you a leadoff hitter or cleanup?
No, I played the outfield. I got bored real fast. I was up falling asleep a little bit.
You were waiting for the baseballs, right?
It wasn't my sport. I need to be active.
All right, this is Eddie Alvarez. He's leading things off. Former Bellator and UFC lightweight champion, and now competing at one championship. You are banging in Tokyo, Japan, home of some of your first classics. And this is going down on March 31st.
Yeah, we truly come full circle. My very first fight in Japan was at this arena. It's a unique arena.
A sumo arena, you were saying, right?
A lot of history, and typically the fans sit down. It's flat. It's a flat area where they sit down and watch. I think they're going to adjust it for one championship, but it's a true sumo arena.
It's called the card is called A New Era.
Yep.
Yeah, and I'm sure that has a lot to do with not only you, but Demetrious Johnson, who will join us soon. He's also on the card, and you two are marquee signings. I'm sure one championship is really, really stoked to have you guys. You're both on the same card. They're back in Japan. This is huge for the company.
Yeah, they're moving quickly. They're not taking their time. That's for sure.
Is there pressure with that? Like when LeBron came to the Lakers, or even when he went to Miami, when all these big coveted free agents go to a new team, and in this case, an individual fighter going to a new promotion, do you feel like, man, I got it? These guys are paying me well. They're promoting me. I got to go in there and deliver. Not that you never don't, but you know.
My biggest deal always when I join a promotion is I want to score points. I want to put up points. I want to do my part of adding value. So it's not so much pressure as, for me, I look at it as competition. I look at it as something fun, something that I enjoy doing, and I enjoy the idea of how do I put up points for this company, how do I put up points for myself, and how do I go out there and put on amazing fights for the fans.
Just walk out and be Eddie Alvarez. That seems to have worked for the last 10 years, right?
I try to do my best to be safe and get it done in a manner.
Or are you talking about connecting with them even prior to the fight as you walk out? Because there's something pretty special about just your presence in the arena, even before you start slinging.
Yeah, I believe so, especially in Asia. I have a following there from back in 2006, and I was surprised when we went back to visit. The welcome we got, it didn't end. They were ready for MMA all over again.
What's that say? Legendary?
Legendary.
That's pretty cool. Is that through one, or is that just your own?
No, just a shirt.
Pretty cool.
Just a shirt.
I like it. And the Phillies being represented.
I got to rep Philly all the time.
Love it. So you guys are kind of hopping around on the West Coast here. You and Miesha, Rich, and Demetrious, and you guys are doing like open workouts, Q&As. That's pretty cool.
Yeah,
just like a press tour, kind of, right?
We're like a band on tour. We were in LA for 2 days. We had a great time. It was a huge turnout in LA. I was actually shocked about how big of a turnout it was. A lot of fans. They came with massive pictures to sign for Rich, Miesha, Demetrious, and myself. Big lines, and everybody's excited about one championship and even the possibility of just having all these Americans. What the future is going to be like.
Because now we're connected. You know what I mean? Like the one app, it's tough to beat that one. That one app is awesome.
That's the best app, George,
Bleacher Report, you know, I mean, Turner Sports, I mean, it's incredible the way one championship is slowly penetrating into North America.
I'm seeing it. I'm seeing via social network. I'm seeing it on Instagram, on Twitter. Fans saying how cool it is. I have my cup of coffee in the morning and I watch the fights. You know.
Right now on this media tour, what are you doing? Are you doing the wrestling portion, the kickboxing portion? What are you in charge of in the workouts?
So in LA, we did stand up, we did grappling, we did some warm up stuff, and just just going out, like getting in the crowd with the fans, just having a good time, letting everybody know we're here to stay, and we're here to make an impact.
When you made the decision to join one, I'm sure it was a confident decision. I'm sure you mulled it over. I'm sure you were happy and confident. As the days have gone by, has there been like another wave of like, yep, I did the right thing, like satisfaction?
I'm thorough. I've been in the sport long enough to not make rash decisions, not get too emotional or too excited before I make a decision. I went to Singapore. I met Chatri. Of course, I've always looked up to Rich. And the biggest thing I seen was that it was ran by fighters, and there's a certain amount of empathy and understanding a fighter has for another fighter. So when the executives themselves have fought, have walked that walk to the cage, they have a deeper understanding for the athletes, and that was unique. That was something unique that I never experienced before in a promotion.
Plus, those guys roll out the red carpet. I'm hearing about like first-class tickets, 5-star hotels, and like lots of luxury in Singapore. I think Justin Buchholz was recently telling us about a recruiting trip that he went on, and he didn't eventually sign on, but he was like, "Wow, one does not play."
They don't spare no. They do it high quality. It kind of reminded me of like when I watched Old School Pride back in the day, the production value and what they did. You just felt something. You wanted to be at them. If you didn't want nothing to do with fighting, you wanted to be at that fight. The beat of the drum, the constant beat of the drum during the event. It's just like, where am I right now? It's like you're hypnotized in the love in the fight,
Now is obviously the goal. You want to be a belt collector. All the major orgs. Let it be known that Eddie Alvarez came through those doors, and I was #1 at some point. Is that what drives you, or is there other goals? Or
absolutely. I joined a lot of organizations in their infancy, in the very beginning, and I was always excited about being a part of the growth of a company. That's one thing that I like to do, and I cleared it. I cleared my shelf out in my office. I have a few Bellator belts, the UFC belt, and I cleared a new shelf out. It's nice and blank, and I'm already visualizing them putting the one championship belt around my waist, and that's what I'm fixated on now, and it's giving me a new amount of emotional energy to get past these next couple years and go after these guys.
Eddie Alvarez, our guest here on the MMA Junkie Radio Show. He'll be facing Timothy Nasty Yukin. I hope I didn't butcher his name. We'll just go with Tim Nasty's who you're fighting.
Tim Nasty.
You guys are leading things off, and this is going down on March 31st, catching the fights on Bleacher Report Live. That night, there will be a title fight for the lightweight title, Edward Folayang versus Shinya Aoki. All right, Goes, what do you have for Eddie Alvarez?
Well, Eddie, I was just thinking about your career overall, and you just said something that kind of ties into what I was thinking was, let's just say from day one, you went with one organization, they gave you all the money you wanted, and you fought for them your entire career. There's a lot of fighters that have been able to do something similar, right? Would it still give your soul, your fighter soul, what it needs? Because I feel like you being able to fight in Japan before even the UFC, all these different organizations, I think it kind of built you into who you are today. How do you think that would work out?
I think at the end of your career, and DJ's doing it now, because DJ has absolutely dominated the UFC for years, and I think a part of him wants to go somewhere else and say, hey, I want to fight the best in the world everywhere, not just in one organization. I've done this. I want something new. I want new opponents. I want new territory. I want to visit new places. It's all part of the journey. But no, it'll be more fulfilling when I'm done. I'll be able to say I traveled the world. I sincerely tried to get my hands on the most dangerous and best guys in the world in every promotion, and I've conquered each one. So at the end, whether it was good or bad, I'll know my truth, and I'll know how I fared.
Our channel here at Fight Nation has boxing, it has pro wrestling, and one of the discussions on the boxing shows, we're coming up on the anniversary of Hagler Hearns. So on our show, what we did was we opened it up to our callers, and we said, what would be your Hagler Hearns in mixed martial arts? Your name came up twice.
Your name came up, yeah. 2
different fights. Your fight with Gaethje, your fight with Chandler. Do you agree with those being in that same realm?
Yeah. I mean, it's hard to argue, right?
Yeah. Is there one that stands out?
Actually, both fights with Chandler were really, really good. Yeah. I was at the one in Long Beach. I wasn't at the first one, but the one in Long Beach, California, I was at.
Incredible, right?
Yeah.
What a war. Mm-hmm. Yeah, even just thinking about, I get exhausted thinking about him again. But Gaethje, Mike Chandler, Kawajiri.
Yeah.
Kawajiri, that was another one that gets me exhausted. No, we have him time and time again, and that fighting like that is never what I intend to do. In my head, it's always done perfectly without being exhausted, without taking so much damage. But you can't run from yourself. You know, you go out there and you can't run from yourself, and the fights end up becoming, you know, like that.
Is there a particular fight that you could point to in your career where you could say that was the true Eddie Alvarez?
I think Gaethje
Yeah.
was for me. It was that was unique for me because it was an undefeated guy. I felt like they were putting me to the young guy, and they were trying to build his name off of, you know, what I've done for years. I felt that. I felt that in the promotion, the lead up, and everything, and it my ego kicked in, and it had been tough for a year or so before that, evoking my ego. And that evoked my ego, and I went, man, you felt different. Like this young undefeated prospect who everybody's promoting. So evoking my ego again was an important part, and just going out there and saying, we'll see who's most violent here, and that was a fun one.
All right. Aside from brain cells that go away from those types of classics, right? I want to ask you one last question. What do you prefer? Kind of like a one-hitter quitter that ends quickly, didn't take any damage, make a statement, or it's pretty something special. Maybe it's more media and fans, but I want to know what you think about something like, you know, those fights like we described, Gaethje, Chandler, whatever, where when it's over, you're bleeding, you're sweating, you're exhausted, but everyone's on their feet and everyone's telling you, like, man, that was some Roman Coliseum gladiator shit. You know, like, which one gives you a little bit more, I guess, satisfaction?
100% the Roman Coliseum gladiator shit. Only because it is until that fourth and fifth and championship round when you're negotiating with yourself inside your head, where you get in that spiritual battle and you find out a lot about yourself. You don't get there when you put a guy out immediately. You don't even know what could have happened if it went further. So there's a lot of uncertainty and questions. You truly get to know yourself when you're deep in them championship rounds and you have them internal negotiations with yourself. And when you get there, that's the beauty of fighting. You only see them kind of fights a few times a year. And that's the beauty of fighting, and that's why people tune in.
Definitely, man, and we cannot wait. Eddie Alvarez will be taking on Tim Nasty, and it'll be taking place on March 31st. You can catch the fights on Bleacher Report Live. They also have a presence on Facebook and Twitter, and they have a fabulous app, all right? The card starts at 2 a.m. Eastern time that day, so that'll be 11 p.m. Pacific on March 30th. But that's the undercard, and then as you progress through the card, you'll get all the way to the title fight featuring Edward Foley-Yang versus Shinya Aoki. Eddie, congrats on your decision to move to one championship. You've done so much everywhere. I just know you're going to be successful over at one championship. So go out there and keep doing what you've always been doing, entertaining the fans. The media loves talking about you. We love previewing your fights, and we love recapping your fights, man. Seriously, you're a stud in the sports. Much respect.
Thank you guys so much. And and thank you for covering always and sticking up for me. You know what I mean? I'm not always the most popular guy, but I know the true fans understand what I'm about and always support. So appreciate that, and I appreciate you guys getting behind one championship, because truly I wouldn't get behind something I don't believe in, and this is something special coming.
All right, there you have it, folks. Eddie Alvarez. You can follow him on Twitter at @eAlvarezFight. You're listening to MMA Junkie Radio on Fight Nation, Channel 93. Stay close, and we'll be right back. Next up, I believe, is Demetrious Johnson. All right, we're back here on SiriusXM's Fight Nation Channel 93, and now we're joined by former UFC flyweight champion and now current one championship flyweight. He's involved in a tournament. He's involved in the flyweight tournament opening round on the same night that Eddie Alvarez fights. It's called a new era for one championship on March 31st. His opponent will be Yuya Wakamatsu.
You killed it.
Welcome,
got
Demetrious.
it.
How you
Got
doing?
it? I'm doing good.
I butchered Tim Nasty's name a little, right?
But I like Tim Nasty. I like that.
Yeah, he should like it too.
You be taking on
that
Tim
should be
Nasty.
his nickname. You know what I mean?
It could be. Could be.
Yeah. All right. So how do you feel? I'm gonna ask you a couple same things as Eddie. How you feeling about your decision to join one now that you've kind of been able to travel and see how much they're investing in their athletes, and the fact that, you know, they keep signing other products. This is just a small portion of some of the fighters that they've signed. I know they signed recently Sage Northcutt, and Chatri Sejitong has been teasing that there's other ones coming. I think Vitor's a rumor. I don't know if it's been confirmed yet, but these guys aren't playing around.
Yeah, you know, obviously my my stay with those guys so far, it's been fantastic. You know, went out there for Singapore to watch Bibiano Fernandez fight Kevin Bellingham.
That's your boy, right?
That's my boy. Years. Yeah. For many years. But so far, it's been fantastic. You know, just to be able to be part of the roster. I mean, it's not just mixed martial arts, right? It's kickboxing, Muay Thai, submission wrestling, boxing, and, you know, Chacho was like, yeah, if you want to do Muay Thai, just let me know. And I was like, I'll let you know. But, you know, them boys out there, they don't be playing, throwing them elbows and the kicks and the knees. It's a whole other ball game. So right now I'm excited. We got the flyweight tournament coming up in Japan, March 31st, a new era. And they just signed a, 3-year deal with TNT, Turner, and BR Live. So I'm excited, man. They're starting to make their footprint here in the U.S. market.
Yeah, for sure. All right, so tell me a little bit about Yuya Wakamatsu.
Yeah.
I'm sure you've done the study tape.
Yeah, I've done a study tape. Yuya Wakamatsu, great Japanese athlete, has 5 first-round finishes, TKO, KO. He loves the right hand, great athlete, and he comes from a great camp.
He's going to be gunning for you, isn't he?
Oh, yeah, everybody is, man. I mean,
that's true.
I'm a new kid on the block, right? So these guys have already been there. They're already competed in one championship. It'll be my first competition. But you know what? I've done a lot in my career so far. And for me to go over here and try to compete amongst the best in Asia, I'm just going out there and with a clear mind and go out there and try to compete.
For the last 10 years, I think we've always come off a win and, tell us about how you celebrated and all that stuff. This is the first time we're actually asking you this question, I think, in a long since WEC days. But how long did that loss stay with you? How long were you able to shake it off? And now are you confident in correcting whatever mistake you felt might have been made? Hell, a lot of people even had you winning the fight. So.
Yeah. I mean, that fight, like I said, I went back to the hotel room. I iced my knee. I had a tear in my popliteus and also a tear in my LCL. My foot was jacked up. So
popliteus? What's that?
Popliteus is basically a ligament.
Shit up?
No, I'm dead serious.
Okay.
Popliteus. It's basically an attachment. It attaches to the LCL, so it goes right here and it goes into the calf.
Oh wow!
And so
you tore that?
I had tears in it. Yeah. So. It was basically, I was more distraught from like the fight itself, like just how long I was kicking him, develop a blood clot in my knee. So I was seriously like health issues. I was on Xarelto, whatnot. But I got over the fight like I think 2 days, if that didn't even really stick with me, because at the end of the day, I've been beat before. When I lost down to Cruz, man was suplexing me and I couldn't do anything. So, after that fight, I was like, one judge thought, he did better. So, hats off to him, Cejudo, and I just moved on with my life.
Goes, I swear to you, right after the show, I'm going to Google popliteus because I've been watching sports all my life and I never heard that one, man.
Yeah.
Football, baseball, basketball. I partly think he's clowning on me.
Can you at least confirm that you didn't know what he was talking about when he brought it up, or were you like, oh, yes, the popliteus?
No, I knew what a popliteus was.
Really?
Like after this isn't the first time I've actually had tears in it. What fight was it? There was a fight that I did and I actually had tears in it, and I went to the doctor and I was like, checking. He was checking my LCL and all that stuff. I had multiple tears in my LCL and my MCL, and he was like, oh yeah, you had some tears in your popliteus. I'm like, popliteus? What is
so you
that?
had the same reaction as me.
Yeah, I was like, what was that? And then he basically told me, he was like, you have a ligament tendon that goes, attaches onto the LCL, and then it goes right between into the calf, right into there. So,
Oof.
Yeah.
All
but
right.
it's part of the game, right?
Right. And now that you've been to Singapore and now that you've seen what one championship presents, other than, I'm sure, a lucrative contract, other than the fans that are notoriously just love the fighters and love the shows. Is there any variable out there that you've enjoyed about learning more about the company you work for now?
Yeah, 100%. The first time I went over to Singapore and heard Chatri speak, at the not open workouts, but at the press conference, he was so passionate about getting his message out, which was he wants to inspire the world through heroes. Obviously, they're putting on fights and competitions and whatnot, but he wants to give real life superheroes. And the biggest person, the best example I like to use is An Lang Sung. The very first time I ever watched him compete, and I was at home, watching on my phone in the morning. He was competing in Myanmar, where he's from, and he ended up winning, but the whole crowd was behind him. Like, they truly loved this man. And I remember texting Matt, because Matt was watching too, and I was like, damn, they love this man. And they're like, oh yeah, they love their hometown hero. He comes from nothing, and he's been able to make a name for himself. And that was the biggest thing. And when Chatri said, I want to bring real life superheroes to the world, I can tell that's his focus.
Speaking of Myanmar, I know that. Am I saying that, Matt? Myanmar, right?
Myanmar, yeah, you said right.
They have One Championship 91, Reign of Valor, is on March 8th. So that one's coming up, and the card that we're forecasting here with Demetrious and Eddie, that's coming up a few weeks later after that. So One Championship has 2 big cards in the month of March, is my point.
Yep.
All right. So there's 1 of 8 of you. You're 1 of 8 in that tournament.
Mm-hmm.
Who do you forecast? Do the seedings change like with every round, or do you already know the brackets, and who do you think will join you in the finals?
Well, I got to make it to the finals. Just let's not get ahead of ourselves, right? I got Yuya Wakamatsu. He's no joke. And then after that, there's Brazilian, another Japanese athlete on the other side. Then you got Kairat Akhmatov on the other side, Reese McLaren, not Jay Hayes Takio, Danny Kingdad, and then I can't remember
Delfino?
Who's that?
There's Ivanildo Delfino. He's fighting.
Oh, that's a Brazilian, yeah?
Okay.
I believe that's a Brazilian. So, at the end of the day, any one of those guys can win. They're all tough. And then the winner of the tournament will get a chance to get a title shot against Adrian Marias, which is the current one flyweight champion. So, tough tournament, man. I'm taking it one fight at a time, one foot in front of the other, and try to keep my body healthy and go out there and do my thing.
Your family excited too? Like,
oh yeah, my wife,
kids, the wife,
my wife is ecstatic. My wife don't hold anything back. She's like, I'm so happy you're with the company. Like, when the first time she heard Chatri spoke and she wasn't even over there, she goes, holy hell, like, I'm actually impressed. So she's happy.
Mm-hmm. A lot of times we'll get fighters in here, and after a loss, they feel like they have to change a lot of things in their camps, sometimes coaches. Like George said, a lot of people had you winning that fight.
Yeah.
Did you feel like just because it was a loss, a lot of things have to change, or can it just be just a few tweaks here and there?
No, just a few tweaks in there. Like, I always say the biggest thing that I've done that this training camp that I haven't done in a very long time, I actually put on some legit wrestling shoes. Like, I put on wrestling shoes and stepped on a wrestling mat. So throughout my whole entire time being a champion, I've never gone to actual legit wrestling room. It's just pure wrestle. Like, we just didn't do that. So I started doing that again, and that's been feeling good. Other than that, man, like I said, it was like little few tweaks. And when I go back and watch the fight, there's a lot of things I could have done better. But, I just didn't do it.
All right, I want to ask you one last question here on the way out. I noticed, I'm going to promote your Twitter, at Mighty Mouse. But I noticed, like, in your profile, it says, current one championship athlete, former 11-time defending MMA flyweight champion. I just was wondering, why don't you put UFC? This wasn't a bad parting of ways, right?
It wasn't a bad parting of ways on that, but it's even like
disconnect from them a little?
Just not just disconnect, but I try to do my best and not be like, I went through the same thing when I was in my Twitch, right? I had my very first Twitch name was Mighty Mouse UFC 125, right? And for the rest of my life, I'm not going to be part of that company. And so I've talked to a couple people about that, and he goes, yeah, try to do your best to try to unbrand yourself or not brand yourself with the company, because you never know what's going to happen, right? So when I was doing that, and I was like, you know what I'm going to do? Right now, I am a current one athlete, right? I am a consecutive 11-time MMA world champion, right? So, I mean, I can, but I was like, you know
what?
One
of the goats of the sport?
I mean, you don't see me having goat in there, but I was just like, you know what? It doesn't need to be. I think people might say that I'm trying to use that as a platform. You know what I mean? Like, if I was saying, if I go to a club and I was like, yo, man, I'm a UFC 11-time world, champion, but for me, I was like, hey, what have you accomplished in your career? I'm like, well, I'm 11-time mixed martial world champion. What organization? UFC. Boom. So I opened the door to tell them which organization it was, if that makes sense. Yeah. That's the type of person I am. Like, I'm not going to sit here and be like, big bold letter, UFC world champion 12 times. I mean, it's even funny in Asia. They've been doing One Championship, one of the things I love about them is they do a good job of telling your story, right? So they just did a piece on me, and it says 12-time world champion, and everybody's like, he didn't defend the belt 12 times. But in Asia, they're like, no, it doesn't matter. Like, if you had 12 world title fights, that is a 12-time champion. Right. So even in Muay Thai, if they fight, 65 times, and they defended their belt and they lost it and they get it back in or whatever, they count 65 times you stepped in the ring, cage, whatever it is, and it's a title's on the line, it counts as one. So
that's a nice phone protector there, leather case and everything.
Look it up. I think it's
it's your wallet too.
It's my wallet too.
It's everything.
So it's one thing.
That's pretty slick.
One thing, man.
Cool.
Thank you.
It's great to have you back.
Thanks,
on the show.
Yep.
Good luck with your training camp. You got about, it looks like 2.5 to 3 weeks left.
4 weeks.
Then you got to travel.
Yep. Oh yeah, we'll finish this up. I'll get back home. I have 3 weeks. And then I'll go out 8 days before the competition and go out there and do my thing.
Folks, remember at 7:30 p.m. at Extreme Couture, Rich Franklin, Miesha Tate, Demetrious Johnson, Eddie Alvarez will be there for a workout and a media Q&A. So go on down there. I believe it might be sold out already, but I still think you might be able to just pop in and say hello to some of these great superstars. Thank you, Demetrious Johnson, for stopping by. Follow him on Twitter at Mighty Mouse, and we'll be right back. We got more from One Championship here. We have a couple VPs, former champs, here in the studio. All right, here we go. We are now joined by One Championship VP, Miesha Tate. She's no longer out there slinging them dogs or getting them takedowns. Now she's a VP.
I think she's still doing that.
A little bit of Stephanie McMahon. I hope you don't get mad at the comparison, but like an executive, a mover, and a shaker, and you're looking really, really great. All
Thank
black.
you.
That's an executive I'm looking at right now.
I do my best.
Hey, you're still in the gym, like still sparring and stuff, right?
Yeah, that's true. I've been getting back into that too. I don't know. I'm just getting more competitive in like all areas again. It's nice to be back in the gym for sure. I mean, I've been in the gym. You guys know that, but
and you're going right back in about an hour and a half, right?
Yeah, but I'll just
home
be
base. Did you set that
wearing my executive wear.
You're not gonna get in there and
no, I don't
break a
think
sweat?
so. I don't think so.
Okay.
Not today.
All right. Tell me about this media tour you guys are on the West Coast. What are you loving about it the most? Are the fans now, they're figuring out One Championship. Okay, yeah, I've heard of you guys, and kind of connecting dots.
For sure. And I feel like it's really neat to be part of history. And I feel like this is a historical moment because One Championship is kind of unfolding here in the U.S. I mean, the hardcore fans knew about One Championship, but I think now it's becoming more mainstream, and you see it coming over to our Western media, and it's being discussed, it's being talked about, and you see some of the talent that's being signed with One Championship. So it's more and more on the radar.
Yeah, I was just thinking, all four of you, I mean, all former champions, you know, and I mean, that was a huge statement at the end of 2018 for them to sign those two and Sage, and I hear there's more coming. Like, that was a nice power move, you know what I mean? Because everyone's making moves. You see PFL, like, they're on ESPN, Bellator, you know, they signed a new deal as well. So that was great that One Championship also made strong moves.
Yeah.
Including yourself.
Thank you. And now we're moving that through the U.S. and just doing a press tour, just kind of getting the word spread out there. And just about how much easier it is now for the American fan base to access One Championship. You know, there's 110 world champions on the roster. It's pretty phenomenal. There's over 70% finish rate compared to like 40% of most other organizations. And I mean, it's good martial arts.
Say that other stat. There's 110 world champions on the One Championship roster?
That's correct.
Or former world champions or current world champions, right?
I believe that they are former. Yes, they have either been a world champion at one point.
And not just MMA, you're talking like Muay Thai, kickboxing, wrestling.
Muay Thai. Okay. That's what's really cool about it too, right? Yeah. Have you guys noticed that they do the Muay Thai? I mean, not just Muay Thai fights. So you'll see a Muay Thai fight scattered in there for the people who just love all the striking. You can watch just that, and there's absolutely no ground game. But there's also the Muay Thai fights with the 4-ounce gloves, which is a totally unique dynamic. Yeah, I've never seen that before. Yes, straight Muay Thai with the MMA gloves.
Okay, that can be a game changer. Same thing
I'm telling you, game changer.
Will they do that with kickboxing too?
I'm sure. I don't see why not, but it is pretty crazy. Because
you know, in kickboxing, when we gamble, it's pretty much if they're heavyweights, take the under. If it's anything but, take the over, just because the gloves are bigger. They're all good at defense and offense, and they
it adds such an interesting dynamic to Muay Thai, because if you notice, if you pay attention to Muay Thai, it's not as much about the punching. You know, it's a lot about the knees, the elbows, and the kicks. You know, the punching is there, but usually it's more of a distraction. You know, they get them in there, but it's not made to be a focal point of Muay Thai. And when you put 4-ounce gloves on, all of a sudden it becomes a focal point. So I really think it makes it. I mean, it makes it really, really interesting.
You can't make a mistake.
Yeah.
You cannot make a mistake with a 4-ounce glove.
You know what I was going to ask you about? You were saying how accessible the One people are. I know I've said this a lot on the show, and people don't believe me, but I'm not just saying the One Championship app is the best MMA app. It's literally one of the best apps I own. Like, they make it impossible for you to miss fights. They send you alerts. When you go on there, it's really only clicking like maybe one button and boom, the fight's there. You don't have to search. You don't have to go through steps. Yeah. It's so easy.
And now they have it on Bleacher Report Live too. So there's that.
With replays on the different Turner Sports.
Yeah, and then there's the Turner Sports deal. So they're doing there's 12 1-hour segments that they're doing throughout the year. It's a multi-year deal, and I mean, who knows where it goes from there.
Is the Miesha Tate show going to debut anytime in 2019?
You know what? Did you say 18? Are you still in 18?
I think I said 19, right?
Did you say 19?
I think I said 18.
It sounded like 18. Anyways.
19.
I had trouble with that today, too. I was like filling out paperwork, and I was like, 2019? Is it 19, 20, 18? What year is it? I don't even know. But yeah, I think so. Reality show is something that we've talked about. So, yeah. I mean, it's so cool, because when I talk to Chatri, I feel like he kind of just like, for lack of other comparisons, just like threw a bunch of toys out on the floor. Was like, okay, Miesha, what do you want to do? You know, like this is what you can do. And I think he knows that I have to be passionate about what I want to do. And so he's made that a focal point for me. And I'm passionate about the women's division. I really want to focus on helping those develop. And I just maybe a reality show, heading some charity events as well. I don't know if you guys knew this.
Great. Cool.
Yeah, so I mean, One Championship's looking to really get involved more with the charity work, and Chatri wants to actually end severe world poverty, which I think is
very commendable.
Very commendable. Clean water for everybody, that kind of thing. Like really spread out the wealth so that there's nobody that's really severely deprived of living in those kinds of conditions.
We're getting close here on the time where you're going to be leaving Las Vegas. Have you thought about like all your lasts? In other words, your last meal here in Vegas, the last training session at Extreme Couture. Like, what are you going to do?
There has already been a few lasts where I'm like, I'm probably not going to eat at this place again. Like, I'm probably not going to do this, and it's really strange, but I'm trying not to be too sad about it. I'm just trying to look forward to the future because I am extremely excited to move to Singapore and start a life over there. You know, it'll be a couple years that will be there.
Yeah, what is your commitment? Was there a contract or you guys?
Yeah, it's 2 years is what I'm going for.
Okay.
Is this the last? Is this one of her lasts coming in here?
This is probably one of the last.
Might be it, yeah. When April, I think is your move or something like that?
I want to start April in Singapore.
Okay.
What's
That's
going to be
my
the
goal.
last restaurant?
Oh my gosh, there's so many good ones. I feel like
Yeah.
I just have a checklist and however they fold in there. I guess the Melting Pot is closing today. I was so sad because I wanted to go last night, but I was just exhausted from this whole tour.
Mhm.
Have you ever eaten at the Melting Pot?
I
Oh,
haven't.
it's so good.
But I was thinking about the barbecue place at Town Square when they closed. I didn't know they were closing. I just
I
showed up one day and they
know.
were done.
I know, pot
That's
liquors.
Yeah, that's the part that sucks about Vegas.
Jesse Ray's barbecue is really good though.
Is it?
Yeah,
You guys
it's
are
a
getting
little
me
like
hungry.
shack. Yeah, I know. I'm getting
How do we
hungry
always
too.
do this? You know what's weird is I listen to your show every week, so I'm getting confused now on questions that we've asked her versus questions that people have asked you on your show.
It's
I'm
all
like, did
kind
I
of just
already ask her?
melting
'Cause I-
together.
Yeah.
Well, it's okay. I probably won't remember either. So if you want to ask again.
What will you, when Chatri is looking at free agents, are you going to pitch him more fighters based out of North America? It seems like in 2018 there's been a real big move towards a lot of North American fighters. And when I used to ask Lauren, for example, Lauren Mack, or even Michael Chavello, they said that we really wanted to build up our foundation in Asia, you know, but like I say, now we've seen a lot of fighters from North America come over.
Well, yes, I would answer that as a yes. I think as I travel around though, and I get more familiar with the talent throughout Asia, I'm sure it'll round out. But here's the thing: is obviously we're making moves to make ourselves known in the States,
Right.
and with that in mind, you got to think. Eventually, I think if everything goes well with Turner Sports, there's been talks about coming and throwing shows stateside.
Oof.
Yeah, so I mean, a lot remains to be seen, and I think so far it's looking really great. And
With
if
the
you,
same pageantry and production, everything?
well, you look at the
Oh, man, that would be awesome.
Yeah, you look at the trajectory of One Championship and where it started with 700,000 viewers, now over 20 million viewers. I mean, in a very short span. I think it's 2011 to 2000 to current. That's a huge growth in itself. So with that in mind, I just don't think it's going to slow down anytime soon. And I think there might be an opportunity to capture some of the fan base that has been lost with like other antics, like with the promoting of rivalries and all the drama and stuff like that. Like some people are sick of it. I'm someone who's sick of it. I know I'm probably the minority. People like the drama
But
and
you've
everything.
had to live through it.
But
too.
yeah, but I'm just kind of over that, and I just like. I like martial arts. I like watching good martial arts. I don't really care about, I don't know.
Finish
all
out
the
that
other
tease,
stuff.
though. When do you think they might come to North America? Is that like a 2019 thing, or maybe still a couple years out from
Well,
that?
we have a multi-year deal right now with Turner Sports, so I think probably we'd be looking near the culmination of that, but I don't know exactly. I don't know for sure. I think it really depends a lot on the continued success if it continues how it's going. I imagine it. I don't know. Maybe hopefully by the end of 2020 would be nice, right?
Yeah, for sure. Anytime would be nice, but
yeah.
but I know that it's slow. It's a slow process.
It
It's not like you
is.
snap your
It
fingers.
is.
I'm sure you guys already have 2019 planned out for the year.
Yeah.
So yeah, great. Well, listen, it's great to always see you.
Yeah.
We're gonna miss you.
Thank you.
It's always great when you come in here and co-host. So anytime you do have a visit to North America and you have an extra 2 hours, we'd love to have you back.
Okay.
Sometime later in the year,
Yeah.
if and when you come back. Who knows? She may be in Singapore and just not come back.
Well,
'Cause
I'll
I hear
check
it's
in.
like a
Well, you guys-
utopian society.
You guys are
up
still
there.
going to have, so my plan's still to have my Sirius XM show
Oh,
while I'm
okay.
over there. So at least I'll probably catch you guys in that because you guys
Yeah.
follow that on Wednesdays.
Yeah.
Correct. Correct.
I was thinking about going that way and visiting them out there.
Singapore.
There you go.
Yeah, everybody talks about how awesome
It
it is.
is
is.
so clean and
Swimming
nice.
pools like on the 70th,
Just
70th
don't
floor.
spit
or
your gum
something.
out on the
Mhm.
street.
Look how relaxed
no
this guy
graffiti?
is, dude. It's got to be
No, no graffiti.
No graffiti. Yeah. All right. Thanks, Miesha, for stopping
All
by. We
right,
really
thank you,
appreciate
guys.
it. Follow her on Twitter at Miesha Tate. All right, we're back, and now we're joined by another vice president from One Championship. A lot of the noobs are really going to go, oh, yeah, that's Rich Franklin, the vice president. That's all they know him as. They don't know him as the former UFC middleweight champion. What's up, Rich? Welcome back to MMA Junkie Radio.
It's good to be in Vegas, man. This is my first time in Vegas in a long time.
I know.
It's been a while.
I know.
I think the last time I was in this casino, I fought here.
Yeah.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
I think so. Forrest or?
Yeah, maybe.
I think so.
Yeah.
All right.
Yeah.
Well, you're looking great. I mean, it looks like you could really, really step back into a cage,
Never know.
a ring or whatever. You know what I mean? It seems like everyone's doing it. Chuck and Tito just did it. Shamrock and Hoist did it.
Yeah.
And no, you had the one fight left on the UFC contract. It seemed like you always wanted to fulfill it, but nothing for the last few years, Eddie. I think you're happy in retirement.
I have a great job. I travel around. I recruit talent for my One Warrior series, and I'm all over Asia. All over. I just actually did filming in Australia, New Zealand. Recruited some good athletes down there, and I go into a city and teach a seminar, assess some talent, hold a tryout, whatever, and then select some guys. And then the athletes that I select, I'll take them out to do some really cool stuff. It could be anything from hiking through the jungle and finding some lost temple somewhere to jumping out of an airplane type of thing.
Right. Okay.
Yeah.
Tell me about aside from when you're scouting and you check somebody and see what their skills are, is there another intangible that you look for as far as like a fighter that would fit with the One Championship stable?
I mean, look, when you're looking for talent, there's always kind of, you'll hear this in a lot of industries, like the it factor, right?
Right.
That X factor. There's a show named after it, and they name it that it factor, that X factor, because you just can't quite put your finger on it. Naturally, first and foremost, you're always looking for athletes that can perform, and then you want people that are charismatic, that can speak well, and all these things are bonuses. Obviously, they have their personalities are magnetic and stuff like that. But so yeah, you're looking for those kinds of things. But on top of it, in One Championship, if you've seen the history of the organization, I mean, the athletes that compete for us, they embody the values of martial arts. Things like honor, respect, and humility, and courage, and compassion, particularly compassion. I told a great story the other day about an athlete that we had. The two athletes competed against each other, a gentleman by the name of Saiful Maricom. When he defeated his opponent, he had heard that his opponent's family's house had burned down, so he took his entire win purse and just gave it to his opponent.
Jeez, wow.
Yeah.
Stand-up individual.
Unprompted. And he had subsequently done an interview afterwards and said that he had decided he was going to do that prior to the match. And you find that we have a lot of athletes like that on the roster. And not just Eastern athletes, Western athletes as well. I think that those kind of values are the kind of values that guys like Eddie and DJ embody as well, which is the exact reason why One Championship picks up athletes like that.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, because I was thinking here in North America, I would think that what the UFC people look for is, can you fight for sure, but then they want to see that personality. It's almost like they want to see if you got a little bit of that pro wrestling shtick. Mm-hmm. But I would think that would be a variable that you guys aren't thinking. You guys are thinking more along the lines of, like you said, humility, compassion, showmanship. Well, showmanship, but in a respectful way. I noticed that's when the combatants are fighting, you rarely have face-offs that end up in pushes or that type of intensity.
I don't know if we've ever had a face-off that ended in a push, honestly. But I think the point you're making is valid and true. But the word personality might be a bit confusing, obviously, because you want people with personality. I even think there's a way to do trash talking in a respectful kind of way. I think I didn't really do a whole lot of trash talking in my career, but anytime that I did, nobody would ever walk away and be like, "Yeah, Rich is a trash talker." But there are occasional times where maybe I talked a little bit of trash, but I never disrespected anybody.
Mm-hmm. Well, give me an example. How do you do that?
Well, I specifically remember when I was getting ready for Dan, and
in Ireland.
Yeah, and in the interview they said Dan had made a comment, something to the effect of if Rich thinks he's gonna stand up and just beat me on my feet, he's like, I'll just take him down and I'll beat the shit out of him. That was the exact quote. Mm-hmm. And I just in the interview I remember saying, I was like, he said that really? Because I'm just picturing myself laying in a puddle of my own shit in the middle of the ring, and it's just not very nice, Dan. Like,
I
you know,
gotcha.
just
I
fun.
gotcha.
It's fun trash
So
talk,
being
you know.
kind of clever and
Yeah,
Yeah.
exactly,
Witty.
exactly. There's a way to be witty and clever and talk some trash and not show any real true disrespect.
Mhm.
You know, Rich, for the longest time on our show, after you kind of, I don't want to say retired, but just went away, we always had that one fight left on your contract where whenever we couldn't figure something out, we
always
would
say
always
Rich
go,
Franklin, yeah.
what about Rich Franklin? And there the phone lines would light up.
Because the
people
company
would go,
man, because I'm
"Hey,
that company man, right?
Never know, right?
Yeah, exactly.
Do you and right now when you came in, you kind of just teased like, you never know. Is it really that feeling of you never know? Or
There are things that are possible but not probable, you know, so to speak. Look, I take really good care of myself. I'm in good shape. I train
You're great.
consistently. Yeah.
You still run in the morning on an empty stomach?
Yeah,
You told
actually,
us
I did.
that
I did
once,
this morning, as
right?
a matter of
no
fact.
water, nothing. It's an
Yeah.
empty stomach, and
Woke
then
up-
you run. And
Woke up this morning. It actually, I've been on the road a bit, and I got up this morning and did a 5K on the treadmill, and man, I was having a tough time with it, more so than normal. I was like, man,
why is that?
because I've been on the road for 3.5 weeks, and you know my training hasn't been consistent.
Right.
So when that happens, it's like you
It's a
jump on the
5K,
treadmill.
Rich.
Yeah,
Crying
but-
out loud. You can do it.
Well, yeah, you can do it, but you know suddenly you're looking at your time and you're like, I'm not turning in the
Oh,
time
I see.
that I should be
Okay.
turning in. Now, granted, in the last month I've been in 5 countries, and in the last 4 days I've been in 3 cities, coming off of a 20-hour trek from Asia. So I guess you shouldn't expect the same kind of performance, but as the athletic mind always expects that same kind
I
of
see.
performance every time
So you just couldn't meet the bar, I guess.
exactly.
Okay. I mean, he's in phenomenal shape. I'm busting his balls only because if he looked like me, then I'd go, I get it.
oh, okay.
But look, he looks phenomenal. He looks like he's competing on Saturday. So that's
Yeah.
why I'm like,
'Cause I was
you're
thinking,
having
I
trouble
have
with a
to
5K?
train for a 5K. He's just kind of waking up and doing one.
Right.
Yeah.
All right. So one thing that I've noticed you've become very good at is the tap dance. You're kind of tap dancing around the return.
Yeah.
Is there like a 50% chance we could ever see you fight?
See,
or
I'm a math guy.
20%?
You know this. I got a
Yeah.
math
That's
degree.
true.
How do you put a number on something like that? I don't know. Because if I say
Okay, how about this?
if
When
I
you
say
saw-
50, then you say 51, and then are we going to negotiate? I'll say 50.5. I
It's
don't know.
Vegas, that's our
Right.
job.
Exactly. We're right here by the sports
When
book,
Tito
you
and
know?
Chuck fought, was there any part of you that was like, you know how Chuck used to do it when he watches people fight and he's like this? Were you kind of looking and going, wow, those guys are my era, and they're actually older than you? Like, what are you, mid-40s?
Yeah, 44.
Yeah, and Anderson's still doing it. You know, I mean, there's a lot of fighters still out there
Yeah.
doing it. Dan did it till he was 48. Every once in a while, Bisping says, I could be lured back, you know, or could it happen at 1? Or that's what we're wondering. Even Bellator, Fedor, you know, a lot of fighters have gone through that, you know, down that ramp and still fought. So I think it's valid. Fans still wonder it.
Yeah, it's. I mean, like I said, anything's possible. Not necessarily probable. I have a good thing going. So in order for me to do that, I would have to completely drop. I mean, you got to realize I put out in one Warrior series. I put out 36 episodes a year,
Oh, wow.
and I'm recruiting talent. I was just in Australia. I think in Australia I recruited 8 athletes, and in New Zealand we recruited 4. And I'm on the road. And this is difficult to maintain shape. I'm on the road 20 to 22 weeks a year, filming and traveling and doing this stuff. Now, granted, when I'm traveling, there are days that I get where I'm in the gym rolling, I'm teaching a seminar or whatever, and I get to roll here and there. But it's obviously nothing like training for a match. So I would have to completely step away from that. And me being who I am, I would have to spend time getting ready to get ready. You get what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
You know, and so yeah, I would be many months off of my mark
Okay.
for me, by my standard.
In your touring of Southeast Asia, or Asia in general,
Yeah.
give me a martial art that caught you off guard, where you're like, whoa.
Lethway in Myanmar, or yeah,
Are they the
Myanmar.
ones that hit themselves with sticks?
Yeah, no, but Lethway. So this is what you
Rings a
find.
bell.
You have Muay Thai kickboxing in Thailand,
Right.
and then each country kind of has their a version of that. Like Myanmar has Lethway, Cambodia has Khmer boxing, and when I was in Myanmar, the first time I saw a Lethway match, they allow, for example, they fight barehanded, and they allow headbutts.
Yeah, that's right. That's what it was. Yeah.
Yeah, and it's not just one of those things where you see guys clinch and use their head, but they'll actually incorporate it into a combination. Like you'll see like a 1-2 headbutt, and so it really changes the dynamic of a combination. Like you can't for example like slip a jab and slip to the inside because think like he slips to the inside, I'm gonna run the uppercut, because if he slips the inside he might be coming up with the head. So it changes the entire dynamic of the way that you actually chamber and throw strikes.
Can you imagine if Chael Sonnen did that? He would be unbearable, right? Because if he gets hit with an uppercut, you go, I was headbutting his fist. There'd be no way, we'd never be able to shut that guy up.
That's true. All right, Rich, one thing we always ask our in-studio guests. Now, I didn't ask any of the other three because they've been in our studio before. You've somehow, we've just been able to corral you. So it's our first time. Can you share a good street fight story with us?
You know
You
what?
can go far back as you need to. Preschool, doesn't matter.
Preschool.
There's been some wars in that preschool.
I'll tell you what. The last altercation I got into.
Was it at the Juice Bar in L.A.?
Yeah.
Was it really?
Yeah.
Oh, wow. Okay.
Yeah. We had a kitchen up in northern LA, and I was up in my kitchen one night, and we were up there juicing. I had some employees working, and one of the girls that works for me had her car parked outside. And right around midnight, 12:30 in the morning, we were done because we would juice fresh every day and then bring this stuff in. And so I had gone up there that night to check on it, and we walked out, and the trash needed to be taken out. And it's late. It's northern Hollywood, and some of that area is a bit sketchy. So I walk outside. And her car is sitting there, and there's this blue light in the car. And initially, I thought it was a security light that was going off. And as I started looking, it was like a blue little flashlight. And there was a guy crawling around in the car. So I just casually walked up to the car, and I kind of get out of the car, bro. And so this guy had busted the window on the passenger side, and I was standing on the driver's side, and he jumped out. And in my mind, I was like, "Oh, cool, foot chase," I was excited.
Right.
And he was a small guy, so I thought he would be fast, but it only took me 3 steps to catch him. And
It's an urban man.
yeah, I guess
it wasn't a 5K.
But
He
listen,
might have distanced himself
I'm
from
not.
you.
I'm not that fast. I'm gonna be real honest. I played football my entire life, and I just did not have the God-given talent to play that game. That kind of speed. But I caught him from behind. I did a double leg takedown, and I gently put him down because I didn't want to hurt him. He wasn't a very big guy, and when I shot in on concrete, I completely scraped a hole in my jeans, and every layer of skin was missing down to the bone.
Oh boy.
Yeah, you don't double leg on concrete all the
Right.
way down to the ground. Not American.
Did
free
he
stuff.
fight back? Did he have a
No, he
sweep
had, so
or
he had,
anything?
he had a
Put you in
box
his
cutter
guard?
on him.
Oh shit.
Yeah. Oh, it gets better. So he had a box cutter on him, and I didn't realize it. And then when I took him down, and he was belly down on the concrete, at which point I was thinking I should have slammed him because I wouldn't have to worry about the box cutter. And he was trying to cut me, and I caught his wrist, and I disarmed him. And I kind of I'm on his back, but I got a knee in his mid back, his low back, and just for whatever reason something didn't feel right. And then I turn around and look, and here comes his buddy with another knife. He's got a knife, and so I jump up off this guy, and I kind of turn around. I got my hands up, and I'm assessing the situation. The other guy gets up, and he grabs his box cutter, and I could tell by the look on their face, nobody really. They wanted to steal some stuff in the car. That was it. Nobody was there to hurt anybody.
At
really.
any point did they go, "That's Rich Franklin"?
No.
Oh, okay.
Well, I don't know. Maybe they did.
So
But
you're squaring off, and what happened?
yeah, I mean, because they look scared. And then so this guy, the guy the second guy that came up, he kind of took a swipe at me with his knife, and I could tell he really wasn't trying to cut me, really. And I just stood there, and when he swiped at me, instead of thinking the logical person would be like, "This is dangerous. I should just kind of back away," I was pissed. And you can see the look on my face. And I just kind of put my chin down, my hands up. I was like, all right, let's do this. And you could see the look on his face, what did I just get myself into?
Do you know how to disarm people with knives?
Yeah,
or were you
kick him
just going to wing it that
I was gonna switch kick him in the face because his knife was in his right hand, and that was my best. I thought if I throw a switch kick with my right leg because I'm southpawed, it'll hit him on the opposite side. My chance of getting stabbed are pretty slim that way. And it's a longer reach than stepping in for this, And then a car pulls up and honks. It distracted me. They jumped in and got away, and so.
Damn,
Yeah.
that was pretty good.
Yeah.
And we almost let him off the hook. He said, "I don't really have one." All right,
Yeah, I
All right,
don't.
but I'm going to ask you an honest question.
Me? Okay.
Who was the lucky person, Rich or the other two guys? We don't know how good this guy was with
How big were those guys? What was the tail of the
They weren't that big. They
I think at the end of the day, he would have taken some cuts,
Yeah.
but I think he would have smashed.
So
Yeah, I
today
don't-
they'd be cool scars, but those guys would have gotten
Nah,
smashed.
they just did. Look, you can tell when somebody knows how to handle a knife, right? And when they step in and they're they look like they've trained. You're like,
Did
okay,
they have it backwards?
yeah. No, it was it was more of a scared kind of swipe
That's
at
how
me.
I'd have it. I wouldn't
The
like a butter
backwards
knife.
is like the guy that holds the gun sideways, right?
Right.
Yeah. It's all
Wow.
gangster style. So
Let's finish up with something here. Deliver a message to the North American fans. What can you tell them? You've been, out of the guests we've had here today, you've had the longest tenure with one. What can they expect when they start watching on Turner Sports, on Bleacher Report, on the Fabulous One app, going forward? what does one deliver that other promotions don't?
If you've never seen a one show, it's the best way to describe it is that it's like a rock concert meets a sporting event. The music is great. The entertainment is great. We have these huge LED screens that every athlete that walks out has their own personal programmed entrance with their music, the graphics, everything is done. So as they're coming down the walkout ramp, like they can see all this. It's a really entertaining show. Aside from that, our athletes, we have some amazing athletes, and it doesn't matter whether we're bringing in people like Demetrious or Eddie, or if you're looking at some of the athletes on our card, like the first person that comes to mind is Edward Falayon. He and Shin Aoki are about to battle it out on the Tokyo card March 31st. I heard you guys.
New era.
Yeah, I heard you guys talking about that earlier. And their first match was an amazing match. I think if you look at a match like that, like I believe that the masses thought that Falayon was the underdog, and the people that were in the know was like, this is a really good matchup, because a lot of the Team Lakai guys that come from the Philippines, they have a wushu background, and they really know how to use this to complement, within their mixed martial arts system. They're difficult to hold down. They're very unorthodox on the ground. They're not submission guys, but I'll tell you what, they will get up off their back, and as soon as you stand up, they'll spin back kick you. And I've seen these guys spin back kick, land spin back kicks, knocking people halfway across the ring. And so with the matches that we have, one championship has a 70+% finishing rate with their matches. And the other 30% that go to decisions, typically bell to bell, they're exciting.
Like the Marias fight was awesome recently.
Yeah. Or if Bibiano Fernandez, like anytime you see him compete, I mean, it's just bell to bell, these guys, and especially the lighter weight guys, they push a pace. And then on top of that, we'll do a show where we not only do mixed martial arts matches, but we also do Muay Thai matches. Yeah. And kickboxing matches, and not just with the big gloves, but we'll do the. And let me tell you, you watch a Muay Thai match with 4-ounce gloves, and it's a game changer, because now Muay Thai isn't known necessarily for people that are great jabbers, like a boxer that constantly throwing jabs and heavy hands. It's all about the kicks and stuff and knees and clinches, but suddenly you put 4-ounce gloves on these guys, and man, it's an equalizer, and it changes the game. So it really does make for some exciting matches.
Very cool.
Yeah.
Well, listen, man, it's been awesome having you here in our studio. We've followed your career for such a long time. Our former editor-in-chief, Dan Stupp, was good friends with, I think, a connection of yours, JT Stewart.
I know Dan.
So
I've done many interviews with Dan.
Yeah, there was many times we were like, is Rich in Vegas? Or we just wouldn't be able to catch up. So this is a big moment for us.
Yeah.
I mean, you've been a huge star in our sports on many fronts. Now you're doing it on the executive level, but the performances, and you've always held. We went through an era where a lot of people thought, oh, these guys are savages, these guys are cavemen, these guys are street brawlers, and you handled yourself with class, and that meant a lot to our sport. It helped our sport grow.
Absolutely,
so helped us in our career.
On behalf of Junkie Nation, man, thank you for representing yourself like that. All these years, and just handling yourself the way you did. It meant a lot to the sport.
No, man, listen, I appreciate it. I always, it's my social, take, for example, my social media and stuff. I always thought when I was competing, because I don't have children, but, my niece, she was young when I was competing, and I always thought, okay, if I say this on TV or if I post this on my social media, would it be okay if she was reading it, type of thing.
Gotcha.
And so I always conducted myself that way as best I could. Nobody's perfect, obviously, but, that's that's how I believe that athletes should conduct themselves, because you realize just yesterday, the day before yesterday, we were in L.A. and I had some fans that showed up that had shirts, my walkout shirts. My shirts over 12 years old now, some of my original early shirts. And I just looked at this guy, I said, the fact that you still have this shirt with the tags on it, thinking one day I'm going to meet this guy and get an autograph on this shirt, and you didn't give up on it after, half a dozen years. It's still sitting there, and I was like, that's amazing. I said, because I probably would have gotten to the point where, I'm never going to meet him. I'll just throw this away. It's taking up space.
No, man.
Yeah, man.
MMA fans are pretty, faithful, and they,
yeah.
Like I say, they have great memories.
Yeah.
I know those two young ladies are going to beat me up, because I know we're supposed to let you go, but I want to ask you one more question.
Go ahead.
Did you have a hand in Demetrious and Eddie? Was that
single-handedly did the whole thing.
Well, no, your idea, to grab those guys. What was your part in that, or is that more like Chatri and other people?
No, I think it was kind of more of a collective, obvious, no-brainer.
Okay.
Really,
so you're kind of making some of those calls, the Sage Northcutt, or
I'm not making the calls, but I'll weigh in on them.
Yeah,
for sure. Yeah.
Cool. Yeah, that's awesome. I mean, you fought, at high levels, and I think you know what works. So
it does really, because I think that's one of the things that I bring to an organization like one, and you'll hear the athletes like Eddie or DJ talk about how the organization treats them, and the fact that you have, I mean, Matt was my coach, and he's competed before as well, and amazing athlete, and me competing and stuff like that. Like when these things happen, you have the ability to think like an athlete thinks, and so you keep that kind of stuff in mind, whether it's contract negotiations or whatever it is,
Very cool.
I was going to say, wasn't Rich on the Bellagio card, the one that had Trig on?
Bellagio?
No.
They were never there.
Didn't you fight here in Vegas one time? Not with UFC, though?
Yeah, no. That was a Hard Rock.
Oh, Hard Rock.
Do you
That's
remember?
That was WFA.
I fucking lost money because of this guy. I think you fought Laverne Clark.
No, Marvin Eastman.
Dude, it was a lot. I just remember
I
that.
just remember
when
going,
he showed
he's
up in
gonna
the
get
UFC,
waxed.
We
Dude,
we know who
I
this
fought
guy
into the
is.
other guy.
Laverne Clark. I fought Marvin Eastman on that card, and I beat him with an armbar.
WEC. Thanks for
WFA.
Yes.
And it was John Lewis's organization. No, Laverne Clark was on that card, and I know Laverne. He's crazy because he was part of the whole Militech camp and everything. And for that card, that guy had I can't remember if he won or lost, but I think he won.
He lost.
I can't remember.
So.
But he had
Maybe I got it wrong.
like 5 days before that card, he had his foot run over by a lawnmower and like mutilated 2 or 3 of his toes on one foot, and still fought.
Oh, the lawnmower part. I thought you meant like the wheel on.
Yeah, I was gonna say, what's the big deal?
the actual yes, and like half of his foot was mutilated, and he still fought. I think he actually wore wrestling shoes.
Oh, that's right.
Yeah.
When you fought, I remember me and my buddy were doing like 10 or 20, and I remember I go, so was Eastman then?
Yeah,
I just remember going, give me that dude. He just looked meaner.
He looked like Lee
I was
Haney,
in the phase
bro.
where I thought the meaner guy is gonna win,
Uh-huh.
and I thought I had it for sure. I think you subbed him, and he made it look so easy, and I just go, oh, okay.
Yeah, because I remember when you showed up at the UFC and people were like, "Oh, who's this guy?" We were like, "Oh, we know who this guy is."
Yeah, it's like who's this? The guy that looks
Great
like a math
pull.
teacher. That guy.
Yeah.
And you fought in the Amazon too, right? If I'm not mistaken.
Down south.
Jungle Clark.
No,
Jungle
I
Place?
never fought. I competed in Super Bowl out in Hawaii, which was connected to.
Maybe I'm thinking of Stefan I think might have done that. Yeah.
Mm.
Yeah, and then I competed in TKO up in Canada, Extreme Challenge a lot. Maybe a King of the Cage. I don't know if I ever did actually King of the Cage. IFL, WFA, WEF. Yeah,
Crazy
all
stuff.
those organizations back in the day, long time ago, like back when this industry was still the Wild Wild West. Like there was not state athletic commissions and stuff. I got crazy stories for days. Yeah.
Was the Nate Quarry fight stopped too soon? I'm just kidding. All right, we better end with that. Sorry, Nate. He's a good friend of ours.
Yeah,
I
love Nate, man.
Yeah.
He's a good dude. He gave an amazing TED Talk, too. Nate did.
Okay.
Oh, nice.
All right, that's Rich Franklin, Vice President of One Championship. And, folks, we are out of here. Don't forget, we'll be back in a few minutes, and we'll be joined by Marc Montoya, head coach at Factory X, and he'll be cornering Anthony Smith as he takes on John Jones for John Jones' UFC light heavyweight title. All right, thank you to the One Championship crew. Very nice meeting you, ladies. Everybody was awesome, and cannot wait. They have 2 events, March 8th and March 31st, and we'll be promoting those like hell because they have great fight cards. All right, here we go. We are out of here. All right, Sirius XM audience, we're back, and now we're being joined by one of the best in the game at the coaching realm. His name is Marc Montoya out of the Factory X Gym in Colorado, and he'll be cornering Anthony Smith on Saturday as Anthony Smith challenges Jon Jones for his UFC light heavyweight title. Welcome to the studio, Marc. We've had you on the show many times via the phone, but it's great to have you here in studio.
Hey, guys. Thanks for having me. It's a pleasure to be here actually in studio. I've seen you guys interview many of my athletes in here, so like I said, it's a pleasure to be in here with you guys.
Well, thank you, sir.
Yeah.
I think we did okay, right? Because there's a baseball bat there, and we probably would have gone to our legs by now.
Yeah,
right?
yeah, exactly.
I didn't like what you asked Joe Warren.
Yeah.
Well, Marc, you've done this for many years. It's not your first rodeo, but I'm sure this is your first rodeo with Anthony Smith in a title fight. So when you break it down like that, that's how these fights become special to yourself, right?
For sure.
Or do you treat it more like just another fight? Like, what do you like to tell Anthony? Like, this is the biggest fight of your career, or do you like to tell him this is just another fight? Like, how do you calm him? How do you work that specific individual?
Yeah, I like to tell, the conversation I've had with Anthony has just been, I like to tell him it's another fight, because it is. It's the stakes, of course, are higher based on getting a world title opportunity and then winning a belt, but it's just another fight. I mean, it's the same thing that he does every Friday night when he goes out and spars for training. It's the same thing he's done in his entire career when he goes out there and fights the person across from him. So I feel like from my perspective, if you hype it up too much, it becomes this real big spectacle. Mm-hmm. And sometimes that doesn't bode well for the athlete. So that's my approach has been purely, hey, this is just another fight. Let's go win another fight, and on top of that, we get to win that world title.
We've had to break this fight down multiple times with multiple people, and the one thing that I can never get away from that I like about Anthony is he just sees Jon Jones the man and not really Jon Jones the fighter. Like, we see a lot of people that are kind of beat before the fight even starts, and they run through things and what Jon's done, and anything Anthony's ever talked about was just, he's not intimidated at all. And I feel like that's going to be the one thing that's going to trip Jon Jones out a little bit. I think Alexander Gustafsson did that the first time, where Jon had this look in his eye like, why is he backing me up? How is he in my face? People don't do that. I have a feeling Anthony's going to be able to do stuff like that. Yeah,
we were talking about Joe Warren before we came on live here, and one of the things that I learned,
world's baddest man.
Hey man, he might be small in stature, but he is a beast. And one of the things that I learned from Joe, and one of the just full-on statements that we always made when he was winning multiple world titles in Bellator is, you have to remove the face and the name from the person in front of you and run through the body. And that's something that I've taken from my experience in learning with Joe, for example, that worked really well with him, and we took the same approach with Jon Jones, because I know if you allow that mystique to come in and play havoc on your brain, that ultimately it'll shut them down physically. And that's something that I wasn't going to do from the very start of getting that fight, and that's been the storyline the entire time with Anthony is, you're going to remove the face of the name, it's the body in front of you, and we're going to find solutions around the body in front of you. And he's not bought in, because buying in would be my idea. He's owned that based on my conversation with him and his experience that he's had as a fighter, and he has continued to carry that on to this very, very second. So he's ready to go run through that body and remove all the mystique that's in front, potentially from other people talking. And we can't get caught up in what other people are saying.
I want to see if you can take some doubt away from me. On December 29th, Anthony was on the panel for Fox, one of the final shows, or the final show on Fox, if you recall.
I do.
Jon wins, and Anthony's being very respectful, and then all of a sudden there seems to be an exchange there. But I remember Anthony clearly saying something along the lines of, like, my dance card's free in July.
Yep.
To me it sounded like either somebody who's either nicked up with a slight injury or just not ready, because he had a busy year. I think he fought four times, if I'm not mistaken.
Yep.
And so I was like, okay, I get that. Guy wants to build it up, but Jon wanted to fight soon, and the UFC wanted him to fight soon. So my question to you is, was that a concern to you that the fighter just didn't seem like he was going to be – he didn't want to fight on March 2nd? Like, is he being pushed here a little too soon? Did you have any input on the decision-making, or am I just reading too much into it?
No, so bottom line is he had a real busy year, and he said to myself and his manager Jim Walter, hey, after this fight, I want to just enjoy my family for a minute because, as you all know, or maybe you don't, Anthony travels from Omaha to Inglewood, Colorado, which is just right outside of Denver, right? That's where Factory X is. And he comes and does his entire training there. And he goes home on the weekends and he's able to see his family. But, you know, he's not living in Denver, for example. So coming back and forth is something that, you know, that takes a toll on his family. And he obviously loves to see them and wants to be around them. So basically what he said to Jim and I is, hey, I want to take a little time off and enjoy my family because I've been busy. And we said, okay, no problem. And then when he had mentioned to John, hey, I'd like to fight you in the summer, essentially, is what he was saying, it was coming off of, hey, I want to enjoy my family. But Anthony was enjoying his family when he was on the panel. He was home and he was doing all that stuff. So when the UFC called us and said, hey, we have the opportunity on March 2nd, are you in or not? Anthony's like, hell yeah, man. It wasn't about him being ready. It was just about him having an opportunity to enjoy the fam. And like you guys know, you've interviewed plenty of people. These guys, you know, they get a little time there and they get to settle, and then they're chomping at the bit to get back after it. And he's been sitting there. So it wasn't an injury, and it wasn't that he wasn't ready.
So he's had a fine camp, and he's ready to go then.
100%.
Okay.
He looks amazing, and it's like having a kid. Are you ever going to be ready, essentially, for a title shot? Nah, I mean, if you're 80% ready in the sense of mentally, you're ready to go, right? And so now we got to find that other 20% in camp to get him a full 100. And it's like having a kid. Are you ever ready for that? No, you kind of just jump in and then you go, oh shit, this is how it works, and this is what you do and you don't do, and you kind of go that way. I feel like a world title fight's the same exact way. Is it ever going to be perfect timing? Because we could argue that July is not long enough, and we could go back and forth about that. But essentially, the camp that we've had and the training we've had, he's ready. I mean, and you, as you guys know, you've seen plenty of fights. The mental game is the key to any of these fights. 90% of it is where they're at mentally, and so that's what we've really honed in on, and you know, that's what we did, for example, with the Shogun fight. If you guys remember, that was really short notice. Shogun, I believe, was 6 days, maybe 7 days notice in Germany. And I remember sitting down on my kitchen table going, okay, how are we going to beat Shogun? And I literally was writing on a piece of paper. I did that 5 times, and I wadded it up, and I threw it in the trash can, and then I was staring at a blank table just like this.
Why'd you wad it up? What didn't you like?
I just was like, man, this is way too much stuff to do in 7 days. That doesn't make sense. Or
to condense it.
Yeah, and I was like, that's way too much or too little or whatever. I just didn't like the 5 drafts. And I was looking at a blank table just like this, and my wife, it was in our kitchen, and my wife came in, she's like, what are you doing? And I said, I'm trying to figure out how we're going to beat Shogun. And she goes, looking at the table? You know, and I said, well, those 5 things aren't going to work, you know, and she just kind of smiled at me, and it just dawned on me right when we had that conversation. This isn't about tactics. This is about where he's at mentally, because he just fought. He was in good shape still, and I needed to make sure in my head the right strategy was to get him right mentally, and that was the strategy. It's purely don't let him have any markers based on his last camp, because if you go do the similar things, like anything he did in strength conditioning, any of the stuff we did in the sense of duration of time periods and rounds, all fighters get markers. They get these ideas of, hey, I felt this way at this time period, at this certain bell, all these things. So there's no markers. It was purely about, we're gonna go burn the boats. We're gonna land in Germany. We don't have a way home. And we got to go accomplish the goal we're after. And so that's essentially what we did, and that leads me, you know, what you were asking leads me to that story, because that's what it's about, is confidence.
You know, he steamrolled Rashad and Shogun. With Volkan, there was adversity to overcome.
Yep.
How much did him and you about him? How much did you guys learn that night? You know, him having to dig deep like that.
Yep. You know, one of the things that I've said a lot about Anthony, especially building up to this fight coming up, is I categorize fighters in 3 sections. They're either fighters, they're competitors, athletes. Now, they can all be a mixture of those, but if you had gun to my head and you said, hey, who's Anthony Smith? He's a fighter. And that's one of the attributes that is going to allow him to be successful on Saturday night against John Jones. Is he's a fighter. And what we learned against Volkan, who I knew was a super, super tough matchup, is that when you bring the fighter out of Anthony Smith, like when you saw Hector Lombard saying about Anthony Smith pre the fight, I don't even know who this guy is. What are you talking about? You know, I brought up to Anthony on purpose, hey, he doesn't know who you are. He doesn't even know your name. He was like, that son of a bitch doesn't know my name? And I was like, no, man, he doesn't know your name. And, you know, I use that for sure as billboard material to get him a little hyped for that fight. But if you recall in that fight, he's yelling at Hector, you remember my name now, Hector? That's where that came from. No. Is that Hector said he didn't know who he was. And so when he was in there and he was doing his thing and fighting, because he's a fighter, he was saying, hey, do you remember my name? When Anthony gets that swag and he brings that fighter out, that's what I know that's in there. And so that's who he is. He's a fighter. So what we learned there is allow Anthony Smith in training to get all the muscle memory needed to go be a fighter and work on instinct and don't think and bring out his best attributes via training, via drilling, via all the things that we need to do for him to think and assess. Because one thing people don't understand, or potentially don't realize about Anthony, is he analyzes the heck out of stuff. If you saw him when he was on the desk, he did a really good job for his first time there, for sure. Mm-hmm. But he can overanalyze if you allow him to. So we don't want to allow him to do that. We want to allow him to analyze for sure. We want his input. We want all that stuff. But we want him to bring out his best attribute. That's being a fighter. And if we learned anything, it's allow Anthony Smith to be a fighter.
Yeah. Yeah, man. I've been on the ride with Anthony. I've always liked him, and I don't know Volkan. And I'll admit this to you, Goz and I are probably the most unprofessional media members because I think because of so many in-studio guests that we have and the relationships that we build, we wind up cheering for dudes, you know what I mean? Of course. But we've been doing this so long, I think people just grandfather us in and go, yeah, let them be two monkeys and do that. But Anthony, like, we've had him on a lot. Yeah. And I remember in that fight just going, come on, Anthony, you can dig deep. Now, another thing is, this is a gambling town, so we gamble.
Of course.
We're very public about it. So I think he was a part of my parlay.
Of course he was.
And I just remember going, wow, like, he won, but the experience of getting his ass kicked at a portion of the fight is something he's going to be able to draw on in future fights, future bigger fights. And no disrespect to Volkan, because he was like number 4, number 3 or something like that. So he's right there before you get to Jones or
he was
whoever was going to be champ at that time. And I just remember going, wow, that piece right there, that time that he spent is going to be maybe even more valuable than the ass whoopings that he's been handing out.
Yeah, no, you know, and the thing is the failure is what I encourage my fighters to go through, especially in training, is I always encourage them to take chances on the mat when we're training. Fail, because failing is learning. You know, in that fight you're talking about against Volkan, we weren't winning the entire fight. There was some failure in that fight. And if you're failing and you're learning, then we're making progress. Right. And so, you know, he's failing, he's learning, he's like, okay, I'm ready, let's go. You know, and it wasn't like he was laying down and not trying to win a fight. It's just that sometimes in those fights they have their ebb and flow, and there was times in there when we weren't winning. And
was he damaged or tired?
No.
Because I was reading him as being tired, but correct me if I'm wrong, because that's a question I've been having. This is going to be 5 rounds, and I'm sure the 5-round camp is more intense, but was he just more damaged or an exhausted fighter in that fight?
I would say neither. So he wasn't damaged at all. It wasn't like he had damage to where he was hurt. And it wasn't that he was exhausted. I know it appeared on TV that he was exhausted.
Yeah, it just looked like he was slowing down. Okay.
So when he won the fight, if you remember, he wins the fight. He lays on the canvas, and I'm not saying he wasn't tired at all. They're both tired. They're trying to win a fight in the UFC. So they're both tired, but not in the sense that he can't continue another round if he needed to or what have you. So he's not gassed. He was more relieved. And one of the things that I've talked to Anthony a lot about is enjoy the process. Enjoy everything about this. Let's enjoy the hard days of training, the fun days, just all the little stuff. Let's enjoy all of it. And one of the things he said to me when he was laying on the canvas is, I want to enjoy this right here. I want to lay here, and I want to enjoy this. one of my favorite pictures of all time is him and I on the outside of the octagon. I actually put it up on my Instagram recently. Is him just sitting on the edge of the octagon, and me talking to him. We're kind of head to head, and we're just talking, and he's like, "Holy shit, we did it," you know, and talking about just the experience and just enjoying. He was the main event.
The stuff fans and media don't see.
Don't see it all.
That's
and
interesting.
it wasn't that he was gassed. I'm not saying he wasn't tired. He was tired just like Volkan was tired, but he could fight another round, another 2 rounds. It was just he wanted to enjoy the whole thing, because sometimes I've been a victim of this. I was a victim of this the first time Joe Warren won a world title. I remember my goal as a coach for Joe Warren was, of course, to win another world title with Joe. And the first time I won a world title with Joe, you know, that hour and a half after the world title was fun. But when I went to my hotel room and it was just me and it was lonely, I was like, man, that's it. That's it. We won a world title and that's it. And I just remember thinking, hey, Mark, you did not enjoy the process of the training and all the stuff leading up to the world title. And the next time you get a chance to do this, you've got to really embrace that. And I've really emphasized that into all my fighters, but we're speaking specifically about Anthony. So him, for example, I really, in the Volkan fight as an example, is let's embrace all of this. Let's go through this and embrace it and enjoy the process. And that's what he was doing.
Gotcha. We're joined by Marc Montoya. I want you guys to follow along. You can follow him on Twitter at Coach M. Montoya, and then he's also got a gym in Inglewood, Colorado. For that information, as we continue the interview, it's factoryxmuaythai.com, so check that out as well. All right, Goes, what do you have for the coach?
You know, I was thinking about something. We are shitty media, because we had Diego Sanchez in here the other day, and he was going off, and he was just so charismatic. And he's old school, we're old school, so we're totally feeling it. We're high-fiving. And then, like, the next day, Mickey Gall walked in, right? And Mickey Gall was awesome. And we're like, Mickey Gall. Mickey. Dude, we're terrible, aren't we?
We are.
Terrible.
But let me preface this, audience, all right? We're fanboys, man. We used to listen to Ryan Bennett on the MMA Weekly show.
Of course.
We used to call in.
We didn't want this life.
Yeah, we used to call in. We used to donate $5 to MMA Weekly. We had jobs. We were in the corporate America world. Unfortunately, Ryan passed away. Frank Trigg tried a couple different co-hosts, and it worked and didn't work for whatever reason. And then Goes had the idea, because we were friends with Frank Trigg. He goes, why don't you do a show with Frank Trigg? And I was up to here, Coach Mark, with the corporate world, and I thought, I've never broadcast. And then I remember going, no, you can't say that kind of stuff. You can't say can't or won't. You know what I mean? Sometimes you got to chase down whether it be a dream. And I was still trying to find what I loved. And I loved MMA. I love sports. But I was really, really loving MMA. I was a huge fan. I got all the pay-per-views. I followed the MMA Weekly show, sound off, everything. And I thought, yeah, man, we can do it. And we built a website. We created Tag Radio, which got bought out by MMAjunkie Radio, which MMAjunkie got bought out by USA Today. And that's why we're here.
Sure.
Frank Trigg introduced us to everyone at Extreme Couture. And so we met them more as fans first. And so we you're not supposed to take pictures with fighters or anything like that. Like, media is not supposed to do that. We've been fracturing that rule for 12 years. How the hell are we going to change it now?
No, you're not going to change it.
So we always tell people, just accept us or what.
Change it.
But we always call it straight down the book.
You do.
And we answer to a lot of the fighters when we say, man, I had the other guy. You proved me wrong. Respect, all that.
We still haven't been beat up yet, right?
We still haven't been beat up. And that door is wide open, so anybody has a problem can really come in here and beat us up if they want. But I think because in the end they realize we're good dudes.
Agree.
So even though there's a little bit of a bias here and there, hey, man,
you guys,
at least we're open about it.
You guys have done a great job. You know, not just because I'm in studio, but you guys have done a great job. You've been trailblazers of how not to do this, and you guys have done a really good job. And I feel like you guys have always been professional in the sense of if you did call something, you did own it. If you were a fan, you were a fan. Who cares?
Michael Chandler owns the house, or used to own the house we lived in.
Oh yeah, okay.
You know, so he was our landlord for 5 years.
Nice.
Eddie Alvarez just sat here. He knows we picked against him. You know.
Sure.
And Eddie's a stud.
Of course.
But a lot of that was because I think, like especially the first fight, we probably should have picked Eddie. Eddie had the experience. We weren't sure about Chandler. He had just come through the tournament.
We like low rent.
But we wanted our low rent. So we picked him. The second time around, he was world champ. We went with him or whatever. But we've always owned it. and we've had fun with it. So every 6 months, I like to give that explanation just for anybody that might be tripping. You know what I mean?
That's
Plus,
the
we
key.
do these military trips with these
I know,
fighters.
it's awesome,
you
man.
spend time with them.
It's awesome.
It's hard when you look at it and go, oh, boy, the other guy. You know what I mean?
Yep.
It's tough, you know. So we try and just do our best to always promote both dudes.
Yep.
What they bring to the table, how each guy can win, and then in the end, when you have to give a pick, you have to give a pick. Because I think the fighters will respect us less if we're just always like
Neutral.
you know, or picking somebody just because of that friendship or that relationship we might have.
Yep.
So anyway, that's that.
All right. Well, so here's what I was going to ask you was you talked about Anthony and you wanted to take some time to just be with his family and just turn it off for a second.
Sure.
And I thought about you. I don't know if you can or can't, but really it's like once you get through with Anthony and everything he's got to do, it's not like your world stops.
No.
Other fighters say, now it's my turn, and you got to jump into that, right?
Yep.
How do you turn it off? What do you do?
Yeah, we just met your family. Your family's cool.
Yeah,
man.
thank you.
And
Thank you.
so just to part B, his question,
Yep.
to piggyback it,
Yep.
are they ever like, oh, Dad, again? Or are they like kind of all in with you? Like, are they
Yeah.
as pumped as you are?
Yeah, so I'll answer your question first. Is my job that I signed up for is to do this every weekend. You know, my job is to be at home Monday through Wednesday and go on the road and go into battle, you know, Thursday through the weekend with each and every one of my fighters. And I've accepted that job. Now, just because I accepted the job doesn't mean that has my family or not, right? My family is full on accepted the whole thing. You know, as far as my wife saying, you know, I know that God has a different plan for you and we need to share you with other people, not just us, you know, not just be selfish with you, with us. And that's something that you've been called to do and go do it. And so, you know, they support me. Without their support, I wouldn't be able to do it every weekend. It just wouldn't happen. And I do this every weekend. You know, last year I was on the road about 40 weeks-ish last year. It's going to be about the same this year. I have fighters in town right now that I'm training. 4 fights coming up, and you know, they're here while I'm here with Anthony, and I'm making time to make sure to train them while they're here as well. And so, no, it doesn't ever end, but it's not a job. This is, like you guys were saying just a second ago, this isn't a job to me. This is fun. This is something I've been super blessed to do, and I get to do this. I don't have to do any of this, so I get to do all of it. And like you were saying earlier, what you say to yourself is important, and the words that you use is important. If I say, hey, man, I have to go do this, it's different than me saying I get to do this. And I learned that a long time ago, that self-talk is essential because the person you talk to most is yourself. Mm-hmm. And so I get to do all this. But without a strong support cast like my wife and my kids, I couldn't do any of this. And there's no way that I could go and be confident and comfortable if my wife was bitching every single day about me being gone, and then, you know, putting that on to the kids that, hey, your dad's gone and why is he gone all the time. It would get toxic. And so they're full support of it. You know, they love it. They've always been in the trenches with me. It's rare that they come on fight trips, actually. They're here for this one.
They'll be there Saturday?
Yep, they'll be there Saturday. They'll be in attendance. It's rare that they come. My kids are, you know, they're 11 and 15.
They're so nice, man. You didn't get a chance to go out there. They're really, really nice, and they had great energy, fun personalities. They took the bad news like, oh, we get it. Like,
yeah, whatever.
They were so cool. I was like, I'm going to go have ice cream with them. You guys do the show. They seem pretty cool. Man.
Are they pretty hardcore when it comes to MMA? Like, in other words, come fight night, if I go, I got Michael Jackson 1 tickets, want to swap? Would they swap? Or would they be like, hell no?
No, they'd be like, hell no, I'm going to the fights.
Yeah?
Yeah, and you know,
Michael Jackson 1.
Yeah, you can't get rid of them. You can't get rid of them. No, they would go to the fights, not just because Anthony's fighting, but they're huge fans, and they understand the game, of course. They've been around it. My wife's been doing this with me for 20 years. Yeah. Mm-hmm. And, you know, my kids, they've both grown up on the mat. They're crawling on the mat, peeing on the mat as little toddlers. And so they still train to this day on the mat. My kids, they play team sports too, but they still train. They do that, you know, 3-4 times a week. And no, they're just into it. If you ask my son, not just about modern day MMA, you can ask him about MMA, period. And that kid, he's an encyclopedia. He'll just sometimes walk by him, he'll be on the iPad. I'm like, what are you watching, man? and he'll be like, "Oh, did you see Chuck Liddell?" And whomever he's watching, and he that kid knows
Did
a
he
lot.
recognize Rich Franklin?
Oh yeah, he was like,
that's
"That's
cool.
Rich Franklin." I said,
Awesome.
"Yeah, man." I said, "He's a great dude. Let's meet him." And they're all pumped to meet him because Rich is obviously one of those trailblazers that we've watched, coming up. So.
Demetrious Johnson and Eddie Alvarez and Miesha Tate were here too, just before you guys were.
Okay.
But they're having like a media day / workout at Extreme Couture. So if you and the family are looking to do something else, maybe you're looking to just break away from MMA. But that's going on if the kids want to check that out too.
Yeah, I'll let them. Actually, I'm training with Anthony here in about an hour and a half, 8:30. Okay. Yeah, just to keep him sharp and moving. And Macy Barber's here right now. I train her as well, so training her tonight as well. So, yeah, it just.
You're scaring me though. She's not on the card, right?
No.
Oh,
no. She's coming up.
Okay,
She's coming up. She just came to Vegas to get some testing done and
yeah, we
some
covered her in
stuff.
LFA and then now the UFC. So.
Yeah, she's a heck of a talent.
You know how fighters often open their own gyms? If she ever opens hers, it's got to be the barbershop.
The
right?
barbershop.
And then just have like that little thing in the front and everything. Wouldn't that be cool?
That would be cool. That would be really cool.
And then you initiate people with like a haircut. Macy cuts their hair. She has no idea what she's doing, but she just does it, and that's how you get in.
She just gets after it.
Kind of like the military. You got to buzz it all off.
Buzz it.
And then now you're part of the team.
That's the barbershop.
That's the introduction to the barbershop. I love it.
Coach, we got to do a quick segment called the Daily Debate. Will you join us for it?
Let's go.
All right. It's a question that pertains to UFC 235 happening this weekend. You know about UFC 235, right? I think you have a role.
A little bit.
All right. Here's the question. Aside from the top 2 title fights, which UFC 235 matchup are you looking forward to the most? Lawler Askren, Torres Zhang. I better say Tisha Torres and Willie Zhang, UFC strawweights. Cody Garbrandt and Pedro Munoz, or other. And if you use other, please expand. You start off, Goes.
I'm going to go other. I rarely
really?
go other. Yeah, but maybe it's just because we just talked to him. But Jeremy Stevens and Zabit,
that's a great one.
Oh, man. He really has me believing that. Even before the interview, we said this guy can actually cause some problems here.
Yeah.
So I kind of want to see that fight. I think that fight would be a really good one. And if you're telling me to not choose from the top 2, give me that one.
I like that.
Okay. How about you, Coach?
So, do I have to pick just one? Oh, come on, man. I can break the rules, right?
Yeah, of course.
Yeah, of course. Number 1, I like the Askren fight. That is a good fight right there. That's a fight that everyone I feel has been waiting to see. To see what I know what he did in 1, and we know what he did pre-1. Can he do that at the highest level in the UFC? And I think that's the intriguing part of that matchup, to see can he go out there and do that to Lawler, who can bring the heat and has really good takedown defense.
Plus, he's been colorful. He's had a lot of personality. So a lot of people are riding with him.
Yep.
And then there's a few
or they're hating.
They just want him to get his butt kicked.
Yeah.
But,
I like that fight a lot.
Right.
Cody always brings it. You're not gonna.
Tough.
Yeah, you're not going to hate watching that fight at all, because he always brings it. But Pedro is really good as well.
He sure is.
Pedro's good, man. And so that's going to be a really good fight to watch. And the other one I would say is
a lot of pressure for Cody in that one, because that would be 3 losses in a row after starting off like 11-0 and being a champ. But yeah.
Yep. I think that's one of the reasons why it's intriguing.
Yeah.
Is because of that. He's got his back against the wall, and Pedro is a tough opponent. So they matched it up really well, and it's worth watching. The other kid that I've always been a fan of is Cody Stamann.
Mm-hmm.
He's fighting on this card, and he's
Alejandro Perez.
Yeah,
there's 17 ranked fighters on. Those guys are ranked.
They're ranked.
Ranked bantamweight.
That's a fight that's obviously slipped through the cracks because of all the other names on here. But I'll tell you what, he's fun to watch. Mm-hmm. And those two are going to get after it. Yeah. So, if other than the top 2, of course, like you guys said, those would be some fights that I would really want to watch as a fan.
Mm-hmm. I'm gonna do like the coach submit to. My official one will be Lawler and Askren, just because Askren's a guy we've covered for a long time. Bellator then won, and he just never got a fair shake. He should have been in the UFC 5 years ago.
For sure.
Him and Dana just didn't get along. He circles back. He's in, but having the 2 guys in studio, Mickey Gall and Diego Sanchez, just has me vested in a way where you want to see if the old dog still has tread on the tires. And Diego loves the sport, and it was great meeting Diego. I consider him one of the pioneers of like the next era. He was part of Tough One and everything. He's fought everyone. You look at the skins on his wall. He's beaten Carl Parisian and Nick Diaz and a few other names that I saw in there. And Clay Guida. I was like, holy cow. Diego gets crapped on a little bit because his run as of late was just against tougher dudes, and he came up short. But he's coming off a win, and he's got a lot of really good wins. You know what I mean? Including being a Tough One champion and a former King of the Cage champion. And so I was trying to give him as much respect as possible. But, Mickey Gall's a young gun, so we'll see. We'll see if the old dog still has some bite or if the young guy gets over on him. So that's just a subplot that has me interested. But I'm going to go with Lawler Askren. That's
what did Junkie Nation have to say?
All right, here's how it broke down. 1,615 votes came in. 74% went with Lawler and Askren. 13% said Garbrandt and Munoz. 11% said other. So that could be any of those that we discussed.
Sure.
The Stamen fight, the Diego fight, or whatever. And then Torres and Zhang came in at 2%. There you have it. There's the daily debate.
I actually cornered Matt Brown versus Diego. So I studied Diego because we were fighting him. Man, you talk about a trailblazer and a pioneer. Yeah. It doesn't matter what you think about him. You got to respect the heck out of him. He's amazing. But Mickey Gall was amazing to my son when the UFC was in Denver, and I had 3 kids actually on that card. My son came for just a day while the guys were training in the workout room, and Mickey Gall was like, "Hey, little man," and said hi to my son and rolled with him actually a little bit and had some fun with him. And my son was like, "Mickey Gall, I hope we get to see him again." He's a huge fan because he just showed him a little love and a little time, and I respect that a ton from all these guys. That's one of the reasons I love what I do is these guys are so humble and hungry, but they're just really cool dudes.
Everybody brings something to the party. Even Diego's off-the-wall personality, I still think he's, like I say, he's good energy.
Yep.
And he's a pioneer, and he's accomplished a lot. But if everybody was the same, how boring would it be?
It would be so boring.
We need a bunch of different characters.
You got a bunch of savages here.
Yeah.
So
that's the Daily Debate brought to you by the MMA Junkie Radio team and Coach Marc Montoya, who will be cornering Anthony Smith on Saturday. All right, Coach, just a couple more questions. I know you have to get going. We're almost done here. Can you give us a good street fight story? I always ask the in-studio guests if they can share a good street fight story.
Good street fight story. Well, most of the trouble I've ever been in my life has been from street fighting.
Okay.
If you say I was a bad kid, it was because I was street fighting. I never picked a fight, though. That was not my personality. It always seemed to kind of find me. And then,
you were the backup?
Right? No, it just seemed like, minding my business, and then you'd come up to me and start talking shit, and then we'd
for no reason.
Yeah, whatever. I grew up in the hood, right? So that's how we dealt with stuff, and so I have a lot of street fight stories, but I would say that the thing that I learned from that is that the amount of trouble I got into because of that, it really pushed me into mixed martial arts actually, and I went to jail because of it. I've had
because of the street fight?
Just fighting, and me being in that system and doing that all the time, and just being in that and not wanting to back down and trying to stand my ground and be who I felt I should be as a boy then, right, and then as a man. So
give us one where you had to check a bully or something. You have one of those?
Yeah. So
the good guy wins.
I was in school actually, and a good friend of mine who's actually a Navy SEAL now. At the time, he had a broken arm, and we were in school. I think
we're like 2nd grade, 11th
fifth grade.
Fifth grade.
Okay,
about 10, 11.
Yeah. So we're in 5th grade, and we're out there, and this kid's name is Mike. He's a couple years older than both of us. And he's picking on my buddy with the broken arm, but he's a big kid, and
the future SEAL.
No, so the kid that was picking on him, named Mike, was picking on my friend Antonio.
Your friend's the future SEAL.
Correct,
right?
He's a SEAL now, yeah. And anyway, so he's picking on him, and my buddy's just kind of like, man, and he and I started boxing together. Antonio and I started boxing together. And Antonio was like, "Man, I'm gonna fight this kid with one arm." He starts fighting that kid with one arm, and he's really doing it. Like he's getting his jab going, he's doing it. He's got his other arm in the sling and the cast and the whole thing. And I'm like, "No, man, I'm not letting my buddy fight with one arm." So, I jumped in that and
and tag team wrestling.
I was like, "Bro, you got to come out. It's my turn," And so jumped in there, and defended my buddy's honor, and we put a licking on that kid, and obviously we both walked off, and my buddy went on to be a Navy SEAL later in life. And
Would you get detention or something? Or
no, man, I got suspended. You know the worst part about it is my mother. I went to Catholic school. My mother was volunteering because we couldn't afford to pay tuition.
Yeah.
So my mom was on recess duty, and this is when it happened. My mom actually suspended me.
Oh, wow.
That's a fact. That's a
Wow.
fact. I still talk shit to her to this day. I'm like, remember you suspended me, Mom? She's like, what the hell do you want me to do? You're fighting when I'm on duty. I had to take you to the principal's office.
Wow, she's by the book.
Yeah, man. Yeah. She put the licking on me after I put the licking on him. She's like, take your ass home, walk your ass home. I had to walk home, and I got suspended for a couple days for that. So yeah, thanks, Mom.
Yeah, that's a good story.
Yeah,
that is a good story. Good stuff. All right. How does Anthony get it done on Saturday?
How does he get it done? Well,
what? I mean, I know you can't reveal game plan, but what do you envision? I mean, fighters envision how they're going to win. How do you envision your fighter winning?
well, I think number one, he goes in there and like we talked about earlier, he works on his instinct and he goes and shows the fighter that he is. Because he's going to do that, and he's going to get the opportunity to reveal, the few weaknesses that John has. He doesn't have many. I've looked at so much tape on him to try to find those holes. They've done a good job coaching him, and he's obviously an exceptional athlete, and he's a good competitor. And so, he's going to go expose those holes, and I see Anthony finishing. I do. I really see him finishing at some point in this fight. I don't know the round. I just know Anthony always looks to finish. That's his thing. And we have a strategy, obviously, on how we're going to do that. Now it's up to him just to execute it and go out there and finish. I know people are going to call me crazy and say, hey, that's never happened to John Jones and this and that and the other. Well, that's never happened to a lot of these guys that hadn't lost. Like, when TJ fought Barral, whoever thought that was going to happen? When Rose beat Joanna, who thought that was going to happen? So these people are people. They're not machines.
They put their pants on like you and I, right?
They do, and
one night at a time.
Exactly. So people are going to say, "Hey, what are you crazy? He hasn't even lost a fight, and now you're going to finish him." And I'm going to say, yes, we are.
Well, I will say this. I've said in many of the breakdowns, the longer the fight goes, I think that's where John has been stronger than a lot of his opponents.
Great.
So I also say that if I fell asleep and you woke me up on Sunday and said, guess what happened? Anthony won, then the first question would be what round did he knock him out in? Because I'd have a tougher time believing that it went to a decision.
Mm-hmm.
Anyway, all right, Coach. Anything from Goes?
Well, man, I kind of want to ask him something off the air.
Oh, okay.
Can we tell you how we think Anthony can beat him, but off the air?
Oh, off air. You don't want to tell me on air?
You won't laugh at us?
No, that's fine. You don't want to tell me on air?
Tell you on air?
Yeah.
Well, when you look at John Jones,
Yeah.
a lot of guys stand in front of him.
Sure.
And you can almost see him just like he feels comfortable.
Yes.
And he gets his beat on the guy, and then he fires off his shots.
Yep.
I think Anthony should kick the shit out of his legs and disrupt that timing.
Yep.
Non-stop.
Yep.
Don't let him set. Because
Yep.
whenever he's not comfortable is when he starts to make mistakes, and he rarely makes them.
Rarely makes them.
But I
And
thought
when
Alex
John
did a
gets
good job
going, he
of
seems
breaking
like
up his rhythm the
two or
first time.
three moves ahead of his opponent. Once he gets going, that's why you got to stop him
Yes.
from getting going.
Yes.
But
He kind of mesmerizes guys in the cage, kind of like a Cobra would, right? He kind of just sits and waits and does his thing, and then when he finds the opportunity, he strikes. And like you guys said, he's playing chess in there. He's thinking a couple moves ahead and doing those type of things. And so, no, I appreciate your insight. There's
Do you want the piece of paper to write it down?
yeah, exactly.
So you can crumble it up.
I'll write it. It's like the Shogun strategy. I got it right here.
And our fight analyst, Dan Tom, he pops in here a couple times a week now. He's big on Anthony shall not be disrespected on the ground.
Yep.
He's a legit black belt.
He is.
Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu. He's got good wrist control.
Yes.
And he sees that should John get the takedown, it's not the end of the world like it has been for other fighters. Because John is a savage, from the ground.
No, he's really good. He's really good. But people don't realize how good Anthony is all around. And on the ground, that's something that he's really good at as well, both on his back and on top. So, we have all the tools to go out there and upset and shock the world. I know there's a lot of people hoping. There's not a lot of people giving us the nod like, hey, he's going to win. Inside of this small circle that we have, we are super confident with where Anthony sits, and come Saturday night, you guys will see a new champion.
When you walk out that door, are you going to make a left and head towards the sports book? Or are you going to go?
Hey, what are the
meet
odds
up
right
with your
now?
family?
I saw they were high when they first came out. What is it right now? 500? Was it
Right there,
500?
let me grab it.
Grab it, goes. No, it's closer to 6 or something.
Was it 6?
Yeah.
Yeah, I think when it first came out, it was in the 7s, right?
It may have been.
Yeah, like 7 something. That's when I should have bet Zen.
It is.
Oh yeah,
right at
plus
the top,
6.
Plus 600.
Yeah, he's plus 600.
Yeah.
Look at you guys.
This is a gambling town. That's what we talk about.
I love it. I love it, man. That's
Folks,
awesome.
For more information on the coach's gym, again, it's factoryxmuaythai.com. Check it out. It's in Inglewood, Colorado. If you want to go in there and break a sweat, it's 720-297-7727. And you can follow the coach on Twitter. His handle is I got too many windows open. Sorry. At Coach M. Montoya. He'll be in the corner of Anthony Smith on Saturday night as Anthony Smith challenges John Jones for the UFC light heavyweight title. It's been a pleasure to have you here in studio. We love having you on the phone. We love having your fighters. You guys have a great gym, great people, great energy, great culture. We discussed that word last time.
Yes, sir.
It builds a great culture in that gym.
Yep.
And some great people that are coming out of your gym. So
That's
congrats
awesome.
on all that.
Hey, thank you guys. I appreciate you guys always having me on. You know, I'll always make time for you guys. I love, like I said at the beginning, I love what you guys have done and what you guys continue to do. So, hey, keep up the great work, man, because we need
Thank
guys just like you. So I'm a fan for sure. So keep it up.
Thank you, sir. All right. Tomorrow we'll be joined by Thiago Santos in studio and Colby Covington in studio. So check us out at 8 p.m. Eastern, 5 p.m. Pacific for another edition of MMA Junkie Radio. Thank you to Rich Franklin, Demetrious Johnson, Eddie Alvarez, Miesha Tate, and Coach Marc Montoya. That's it for today. For Goes and the Coach, I'm George. Have a nice day, and don't forget to keep it locked on MMA Junkie. We got you covered for all the UFC 235 pre- and post-fight stuff. It's going to be a big week. It's fight week, folks. We're out of here. Be champions.